thought I would come on and share something else with you guys. This is another project that I've been doing for a while, and this is called Shave 'em to Save 'em, and it is a program put on by the Livestock Conservancy, and their goal is to promote different breeds of animals, farm animals, and livestock that we're at risk of losing if shepherds don't maintain them and people don't learn more about them. So what this does is this connects us with different farmers and fiber producers so we can experience all these beautiful different wools. So if you're interested, you can check it out at rarewool.org. There's also a really great Facebook group that you can visit, and that's a great place actually to get some fiber. And this program is for anybody who works with wool. So whether it's felting or knitting or spinning, crochet, you can work from yarn, raw fiber, from mill-produced fiber. What you want to do is make sure that you're purchasing from a provider who is also participating. They'll be able to provide you with a little sticker for your book, your little passport book, and there are 22 different breeds represented. And the goal of the 3-year project that started last January, so we're about a year and a half into it, is for you to work with 15 different breeds over that time period and, produce a project of some kind, whether it's a spun yarn or a finished item. And so far right now, I've spun up 5 different breeds. I did also purchase a yarn that I'm going to work with, and that once I make something with it will count as another entry for my project. So when you finish 5 or 10 or 15 projects, you can get a little prize. And I just actually received in the mail some raw wool from another of the breeds that I haven't spun yet as kind of my incentive for hitting my 5 project mark. So that was really cool. So this has just been a fun way to really get you to explore outside of what you're used to, because I think a lot of people in recent years have come to spinning through the attraction of beautifully dyed fibers from like indie producers, and those are so wonderful to work with. But I think sometimes we can get this idea in our heads and in our hands that wool is a certain way when there's such a great variety of sheep out there, hundreds of breeds, and what's being represented here are just some of the ones that are most endangered. And I think this is a really cool way to get people to try new things. So some of the things I've worked with already, the first one I did is called Dorset Horn. There was a couple of varieties of these sheep, and I guess the one I had chosen had horns on it. So this is a really interesting fiber. I spun it from a mill-produced roving, and when I was spinning it, it felt a little lumpy bumpy, but in the finished yarn, that all evens out over the 3-ply yarn that I did. So it's very spongy kind of in a way, with a little bit of a crisp hand, I would say, but not scratchy. That's not what we're talking about here. We're not talking about itchy wool. But because of that kind of sponginess, I feel like it would hold a lot of heat and warmth in a project. So maybe mittens. Beautiful color. This was a really interesting fiber to work with for me. Another one that I did, I worked with raw wool. I purchased 4 ounces of this one. Is Gulf Coast Native. This is actually a really good place to start if you're just joining the project. I've seen some fleeces and yarn and roving all available right now because it's springtime. Fleeces are coming off and getting processed right now. So this was a very easy wool to process from raw. I don't feel like you need a lot of equipment to get through it. I probably picked and spun from the cloud on this one. I'm pretty sure, because I'm not the best friend with my hand cards yet, and I think it was a little short for me to really want to comb it. So I did end up dyeing this one up. I had a Paradise Fiber subscription box last year that came in and had the dye. So I threw this in the pot as well, and it came out really beautifully with some dark and light color variation. But this yarn, I mean, you could do anything with this yarn. It's soft enough to be next to skin friendly and was just really easy to work with. So if you want to get started, I would say go look for some Gulf Coast Native, and you might be really surprised at your results and your experience. Another one that I did, and this is where it gets really fun. This is Tunis, and this came from a sheep named Julia. I actually get to see her little face and learn about the specific sheep that this fiber came from. So this fiber I purchased through somebody who's an intermediary between the farms and the consumers like me, and she's a gal who has a website. It's called fibertraveler.com. I actually purchased several things through her last year, but how great is that to be able to get, you know, a name and a face? And sometimes if you connect with the shepherds or something on Instagram, you can see the daily lives of these sheep, and you can see how well taken care of and well loved they are. That's really been so much fun. One of my favorite parts of the project. So I did spin another 3-ply for this. This one's a little finer. I'd say it's heavier than a sock yarn, but I want to put some dye on it, and that's going to be fun to work with as well. One of the biggest surprises for me in this process was Shetland. This was a roving that I spun, and this just threw itself at the wheel. Like, it was the easiest thing to spin. It spun up so fast, is so satisfying in the way that it dries too. When you soak and set it, it gains so much loft and that floofy squooshiness that we love. And the big surprise for me was Shetland isn't one of those more primitive breeds, and just in my mind that translated to coarse, wiry, something like that, but that is completely not the case. And I'm so excited that I got to try this. In fact, once I finished this yarn, I immediately asked the producer if they had any more of this roving available, and they didn't at that time. But what that did is it kind of spurred me on to go look for a fleece to work with. And in doing so, I ended up purchasing that Fin fleece from Jennifer and Blaine and from Garnet the sheep. And they're in the same family with Shetland, the kind of short-tailed, more primitive breed. And so they can share some characteristics. And I learned a lot about that through getting this fiber. So really, we can blame the whole sheep to sweater thing I'm doing on this project right here. So anyways, this is so soft. Would be a beautiful, beautiful sweater yarn. I haven't decided what I'm going to make with it yet, but I'm thinking maybe a nice warm hat. Super, super fun. And one of the other favorites that I found through this project, I loved it so much that I bought it like 3 times now. This is CVM, or Rommeldale. CVM is like a genetic color mutation that they have separated into kind of a separate subgroup of sheep at this point. So this is 8 ounces of bats that I purchased and spun in this beautiful light blue colorway, and it's got little kind of tweety bits of purple and blue and green in it. And this is another yarn that I would say has become one of my favorites, this fiber. It is something I would choose over merino any day of the week now. And I first had purchased this roving in this kind of oatmeal color, but I was so like taken in by this blue that I just had to have it. And then after that, I ended up purchasing a fleece through the Gallet Fiber Traveler, and it's a CVM lamb fleece. She was able to go and look through what the shepherd had on hand and help me choose something based on characteristics. And that was really helpful. If you are purchasing a fleece online and it's a fiber you've never worked with, you know, ask lots of questions. And most of the producers, in fact, all of them so far that I've encountered, have been really excited to share information about their fiber and about their sheep, and are more than willing to answer questions, and even oftentimes have suggestions on how to best process and handle and wash those fibers. So that's really exciting. You may have seen this fleece in that video I've done about washing my wool last week. This was the big pile of black lamb that I was working with. So yeah, I found already several fibers in just my first 5 projects that I really, really enjoy and would love to work with over and over again. So I think that's really exciting. Some of the other fibers that I've already purchased to work with are the Cotswold and the Florida Cracker and the Southdown that I washed up last week as well. So you can see those in that other video, but I have a couple other things right here that I have already purchased. This is a Jacob roving from a sheep named Surfer, and I got a note, a personalized note from the owner of this sheep. He was actually a very special little guy who had some medical challenges, and so she told me a little bit about that in the note. It was really fascinating to learn, to have a really personalized experience with. And then another one we've got, this is called Clun Forest, and it's from some sheep named Pirate and Dutch. So again, from fibertraveler.com. She was a great resource for me for that. So if you're interested in doing a project like this, I would totally suggest that you guys pick up this resource. This is called the Fleece and Fiber Sourcebook. Very much has become the classic reference on something like this. It's a huge book. It's got so many breeds, and what they've done is they've given you historical information, and they've also done a lot of sampling to give you some ideas about the characteristics of the different fibers, so that you can get an idea of the application and what you want to do with that fleece when you purchase it. So I just think this is a really great program, and there's still time to get involved. It's not too late if you want to join in. So it's about, I feel like it was $15 to get the passport. You get a little pin to collect as well, but it's just been so eye-opening to experience these different fibers and to be encouraged to just try new things. So I really encourage you guys to check it out.